Hi, hello. Super nice to be here at the AgileByExample conference in this virtual form. And today what I would like to talk about is to talk about how you can create a product that people will remember. And I'll try to make it as practical as possible. Before we get into that practical part, let's talk a little bit about what does it mean that we have an experience. This is Daniel Kahneman. Probably you know him from the book Thinking Fast and Slow. And one of the things that he's been working on throughout the years was to understand how do people experience life. And he came up with this concept of the two selves that we have in us. So there is this experiencing self and the remembering self. The experiencing self is the part of us which lives the life. So basically this is all the sensory information that you get, meaning you feel some temperature, you see the light, you hear my voice, you had a lunch and you feel that it was tasty or maybe not that tasty. So these are all the things that your experiencing self is living through. Experiencing self is living through actually those moments of 3 seconds, and these 3 seconds define how the experiencing self experiences life. The thing is that the experiencing self forgets about 99.9% of the stuff right away, because otherwise, our heads would blow up. So this is not something that we tend to remember. But on the other hand, we have the remembering self. The remembering self is in a way a library of memories that we store, memories that define our life. So actually the remembering self is telling the story of whether our life is happy or maybe not that happy. It creates all the narrative that we live by. And the remembering self is also responsible for remembering our experiences with products, services, and brands. So this is one part of this equation of what experience is all about. But there is another thing. So whenever we think of using something, be it a product, be it a service, be it going to an experience, we always have expectations. And I've heard a lot of people saying, no, we don't have expectations. We live our lives expectation-free. I have bad news here. That's not possible. And for a long time, it was not quite clear where do expectations come from, how do we form them, and why do we form them in the first place. And about 20 years ago, Lisa Barrett-Feldman, a professor from Norton University in the US, she started investigating why and how we create emotions. There was a theory of emotions from a long time ago, created by Paul Ekman, and basically it said that our emotions are our instinct reactions to situations, that people have the same emotional reactions to situations, and basically that emotions are universal throughout the world. So Lisa Barrett-Feldman started investigating this thing, thinking that, okay, if we all experience emotions in a similar way, obviously there should be the parts of our brain that light up should be similar. Like if we experience happiness, my brain and your brain should light up in a similar way if this is such a universal thing, this emotion that we experience. So she started putting people in fMRIs, and very soon she realized that, first of all, it's not like my emotional footprint, as it is called, is the same as yours. It's even worse. It's actually, if I feel happy now, and I will be feeling happy in an hour, the different parts of my brain might actually light up. So that was something that was really interesting, and she started understanding that perhaps emotions are not what it was perceived that they are all about. And I'm not going into that research. There is a book called How Emotions Are Made, who is like super cool, and I highly recommend it. But there's one thing that Professor Feldman figured out as she was doing her research, and this is that our brain is like a black box. It's like a black box that gets the signal from our experiencing self, like, the sensory information that we all collect as we live our lives. And it has one job and one job only, and this job is to figure out how much energy the next task is going to cost us. Because, this is the way to keep us alive. If we use too much energy, we are going to be in trouble. If we use too little energy, less trouble, but kind of not very healthy in different aspects of our lives. So she realized that basically when we create those expectations, we look at them as expectations that either match the story that we remember, so they are similar to something that happened before, or they are not similar to something that happened before. The thing is that our brain is not a very good judge of those possible expectations. So what we are trying to do as humans, we are trying to collect as much information about it. We compare it to our previous experiences, and believe me, even if you experience something completely new, you're going to get the stories that are at least a little bit connected to the experience that you're going to go through, just to figure out how much energy it's gonna cost. And also we collect the information from other people. And the information from other people is the word of mouth that helps us define whether something is going to be costly emotionally or maybe very easygoing for us. And thinking about the expectations, imagine this. So you enter an interaction with a service or with a product, or you go for an experience, and you've been told or you experienced this experience before. So you have a level of expectations. So this is the expected level, the desired level. So you say, okay, if this goes like this, it's going to be a really nice thing that I experience. You also have this level which says, okay, if this is going to be like this, that's good enough. It's not super great, but I'm willing to live with that experience. It's not going to be terribly disappointing. The thing is that if we are able to imagine that experience, this is what it is called a zone of tolerance. So this is the space between the adequate thing, so still good enough, and something that we really expected. We are not going to be surprised by it in any way. So our remembering self is not going to see this experience as something worthy remembering, because, probably we already have that kind of memory, maybe not exact that one, but a similar one already stored in our database of memories. So basically what we do remember from experiences is something that goes worse than the adequate experience that we predict for something, and also something that goes above what we desired, something that surprises us in a positive way. And obviously, as a business, you don't want to go in that direction of less than adequate, but there is this huge space which is very rarely filled up by things that brands or companies and services offer, which is going beyond what is being desired. So what I call it an experience equation. So basically you've got the impressions of the experiencing self, your experiencing self going through a certain experience, that are divided by the expectations. So, the experiencing self, the remembering self actually has an expectation. The experiencing self is experiencing the situation as it's going. And if these expectations are either higher or lower than what you imagined before, I said it all wrong. If the impressions are higher or lower than from what you expected, then there will be a memory created in the head of your customers. So basically, the whole thing of creating experiences is to create memories that are worthwhile remembering by people. And now the question is, how do you do it? How do you do it? How do you make people remember things? And there is a way to think about it. And basically, before I get into the details of it, let me talk a little bit about what happiness means. So basically, if you ask 96% of people all around the world what is the most important thing for them, the answer will be they would like to be happy. 4% is transcendence. So just for those who are thinking why is it 96? And Of course, the research on happiness is an ongoing thing. So this graph that I'm showing you is something that's the preliminary work of Professor Sonia Lubomirsky. However, it actually tells us a bit about what makes us happy and what doesn't. So 50% of our feeling of happiness are our genes. We have something which is called an experience set point. And this experience set point is something that we come back to whether something good or bad happens to us. So basically, if you're an optimist, you're going to probably have this happiness set point slightly higher than someone who is a pessimist. The good thing is that you can work on it. So it's not like you are set for life to be a pessimist or an optimist. You can actually make the happiness set point higher, or you can make it lower, but who would? Anyway, so basically you can work on that. Then there's the 10% that defines our happiness, and this 10% are the things that we possess. These are the houses, the cars, the clothes, the gadgets, like all the things that we often think that make us happy. They are the products. And the thing is that it's not like they don't make us happy. They do make us happy, but they make us happy for a moment. So this is a very momentary hedonistic happiness. It just lasts for a moment, then we come back to our happiness set point. And then there is the 40%, which is the interesting thing. And this is the stuff that talks about this narrative that we live by. So our attitude, our behavior, and the way we see the world. And now, if you think about creating a solution that you are designing, you can be designing a product, a service, technology, an event, whatever it is. It doesn't really matter. You can start thinking about it from the perspective that you want to create an awesome product, an awesome solution, like something that is like so cool, right? And actually, me being a designer, I know that this is how we've been trained to think about the designs that we deliver. We should deliver an awesome solution to people. There is a different way to think about it, and this different way is that you deliver something that helps people go through an awesome activity. So basically you have something that makes you do something in a cooler way. So for example, if you have an awesome bike, like something that like really cool bike, and it's like has a lot of gears and I don't know what else can there be in the bike, it's going to make your activity feel cooler, feel more awesome. So this is something that that definitely already helps. So it's not about the product, it's about the activity. But the highest level that connects to our happiness is the fact that at the end of the day, what people want is to feel awesome about using the solution that you delivered. So if you deliver something that make people feel stupid, trapped, alone, this is what makes them feel bad. This is where you go below the adequate level. But if you create things that make people feel that they can do the stuff the way they want to, that they feel competent by using it, that they feel connected to other people, this is something that makes them happy, makes them feel awesome, and this is when they create those memories that are stored in the remembering self that basically make them want to remember your brand, your product, your solution, and also keep on using it and telling others, because that's the bottom line for a lot of companies. The word of mouth is obviously the best marketing tool today. And then, it kind of, when it comes for a story of what experience is all about. And now let's look at the companies and how they approach it. So the first thing is that, or first trouble is that we're all stuck in status quo of how the business works. And the business works like this. Imagine that this is a representation of your product, your solution qualities. So there is a market average. You have 5 different attributes that you are measuring your solution by. You are comparing yourself to the competition, and obviously everybody has a competition out there somewhere. And then you're looking at this and you say I'm kind of good on the 4 levels, but I'm really below the competition on level 5, or on the 5th attribute, or the 2nd on the drawing. So what is typically happening in different businesses? They start working on this, right? And that sounds kind of reasonable, but the problem is that you get get to make everything look exactly the same. So basically, you fall into a trap of market averaging syndrome, that although it seems that every single company is delivering a different thing, at the end of the day, they seem to be delivering pretty much the same. And actually, there's an interesting report from Havas, one of the consultancies, and they say, they repeat this, like they make this report every year. And I was looking at the results from last year, and what they said is that if 80% of brands disappear today, nobody would notice. And this is exactly why. So because you've got all the banks that are more or less offering similar things to all the other banks, you have technologies that offer very much similar things to other technologies. People say like, yeah, okay, like if this one is gone, fused with another company, like I'm not talking about bankruptcy here, because obviously if you have a bank and your bank goes bankrupt, you notice because your money is gone. But I'm talking about those kind of things when brands are being bought by other brands, or they kind of quietly disappear from the market. And people don't really notice that they are gone because there is another offer that's maybe slightly worse, maybe slightly better, but it fits into the zone of tolerance, fits between the expected and desired and the adequate. And as I'm talking about this heterogeneous homogeneity, I would like to kind of connect it to the framework that I propose, which is called the umami strategy, umami framework, umami model, which basically talks about the fact that if you want to stand out in the market, you have to create something that differentiates you from it. So the first thing is that a lot of companies don't quite know where they are going with their strategy and with what their experience should all be about. And I absolutely love this quote from Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland, who tells to Alice, when Alice asks him where she should go, if you don't know where you're going, any road you take, any road can take you there. Oh my goodness, I'm talking too fast. And think that this is a challenge for a lot of companies. So they say, we want to deliver customer experience. Yeah, right. We are actually delivering a customer experience of a kind. But is it a good one? Is it a bad one? Does it differentiate itself from any other experience? They don't really know that, right? Like this is something that you don't really discuss. So the first thing that allows you to define and make your experience be different from other experiences of your the experiences that your competition is offering, is to create a vision, a North Star for your experience. And this is something that's really super important because there's one phenomenon which is really crucial for businesses to understand, and this is the phenomenon of positive adaptation. So basically, the thing is that if we experience something for the first time, we see it as something like exciting and cool and so on. But if we use it the next time, this becomes our new normal. And the thing is that if you think about customer experience or experience as such as creating those wow effects, so you create something and people are super excited about it and they come the next day and suddenly they are not. This is the normal thing for them. So basically, if you get into this loop of creating wow effects, you find yourself spending more and more money doing those wow effects while your customers are getting used to them sooner rather than later. So basically, there's one thing that's super important. There's no way to stop positive adaptation. This is our evolutionary trait, and this is the way it is. We have to deal with it. But there is a way to slow it down. And one way, or the best way to slow it down, is to create a vision that transcends your business. It means that it's bigger than your business. Simon Sinek talks about it a lot. So he talks about the defining your why. He talks about the just cause as something that makes your company have a strategy that is going beyond your product. And if you would like to think about it, the way to think about it is that you try to deliver on the 6 levels. So of course you want to deliver something on the level of your business because you are in business, so obviously you're there to make some money. Otherwise you wouldn't be in business, you would be in non-profit. or you would be doing charity or something like this. So basically you have to understand that you have to deliver something on the level of business. So, some sort of gain that's worthwhile your time. Then you have to think that you are going to deliver something for your customers. So you offer them something that makes them feel awesome. And then you can start thinking, okay, like, can we offer something for the community or for the society as a global society of all the people in the world? Or perhaps we can offer something on the environmental level, like something for the planet. And if you define this thing and you don't treat it as your CSR, but you treat it more as something that defines the way you're acting in the world, people will be willing to stay with you, and they will be willing to connect with you emotionally simply because their values will be aligned with your values. The whole thing is that it has to be authentic. So if you say like, yeah, we are, all good for the planet, but then that's not necessarily visible in any actions out there, people will call BS. And yeah, you are going to actually make it less worse for yourself than better. Okay, so this is the one thing it's super important. The problem with the vision of that kind is that it takes time to build the trust of your customers in the fact that you're actually doing this and that this is something that's true to them. And we live in a world where there is a need for quarterly results, and there is need for delivering measurable outcomes that kind of convince your investors that you are going the right direction. So working on the vision might feel a little bit too abstract or too long term, and it's not gonna be convincing enough for thinking about experiences. So there is another way to or there's another aspect of it that helps to make it more concrete as you are reaching that far away goal. Remember when I was talking about the syndrome of averaging out just a few minutes ago? So actually, instead of trying to fill in this gap, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't fill in the gaps. Of course you should. You should have a baseline that represents the level of your competition. Otherwise, people won't be willing to use your product, your solution. But you need to figure out 2 or 3 attributes of your business that you are going to be just rocking through and through. So basically the idea is that you choose some qualities, some attributes that you say, okay, like these things, we are going to be the best in the world. And you cannot be just one step ahead of your competition. One step ahead is just, it's not worthy. Like, don't do it. If you go one step ahead of competition, just go like your competition, because the cost is not worthy the effort. But if you say to yourself that you're going to go like, you're going to rock that particular quality and you're going to differentiate by this, you will see that over time, the stories that your customers say will have the elements that talk about these attributes, and suddenly you will find yourself being different from your competition rather than heterogeneously homogeneous. I know that sounds a little bit abstract, so I'll use an example. In Poland, we have a brand called Impost. They create those cabinets for packages. So basically they are the delivery company, and then you can, instead of having a delivery man coming to your door, you basically go into this huge metal cabinet standing in the city or somewhere in the smaller places, and then you put your package and it just teleports itself to the other part of the country. And they are known for 2 things in Poland, and I don't know if that was a conscious strategy, but I think that they are a really good example to talk about it. So one thing is that they created really super cute communication. They send you messages not from the company, so it's not like the boring thing like your package is being delivered and it's going to arrive at da-da-da-da, but they send a message from your package. So the package says like, hey, I'm your package. I'm on my way. I'm coming to you soon and I cannot wait to be home. And, like they didn't really change much, the communication much over the last years. And I must say that like whenever I'm talking in Poland about creating experiences, people bring that case over and over and over again because they went for this extreme cuteness in their communication. And this is something that stands out from any other communication that we get from all the other companies sending us packages, and it's a lot today, right? So this is one thing. But they also went for another quality or another attribute, which is time effectiveness. So basically, when you go to this cabinet, their goal is to make the process of sending out or receiving a package as fast as possible. So they created an app where you just press the button and then you get the door open for you. And basically what they do, they actually communicate on an interface how fast that interaction went. So my record is 13 seconds. Pretty cool, huh? So actually they used something that seems very basic and very pragmatic and made it into something that people want to talk about. Like, hey, I picked up my package so fast. So this is an example of how you could think about it. The thing is that you need to be extreme about it. Like you cannot just be a little bit better than others. And the problem with this, and I come back to the moment that when I was talking about the status quo, which is basically, it means that you have to enter a territory that's kind of uncharted. Like there are no examples of how to do it. InPost was based a little bit, their communication was based a little bit on CD Baby, which was the first one in the world, at least that I've heard of, making this kind of cute communication. So there might be some examples, but there are like fewer rather than more of these examples. And practically you're going to be carving the road yourself. And this is something that scares a lot of companies. So the thing is that if you choose those qualities and you say, okay, like we want to be magical, we want to be easy to use and magical at the same time. Of course, you are not going to rock these two qualities in your first project. But if you start doing this and you will be consistent in making these two qualities entering these qualities into every project, every process, everything that you deliver, over time, first of all, you will get braver and braver because some things will just work out. So you will have more experience on how to make it. And also over time, you will notice that your customers start talking about it. And if they start talking about it, you will feel like, okay, like this is something that actually differentiates me from my competition. So you will have more arguments and more motivation to bring more of it. So the question that stays here at the end of this presentation is, what kind of outlier would you like to become? Thank you very much. I hope it was interesting and inspirational. And by the way, until the end of October, if you use the code UMAMI20, you can check out and buy the book on the Beast Publishers website, the publishers that published my book, and you will get 20% discount. Thank you very much.
And in the meantime, Aga, I have a question for you. So this is a big question that goes a little bit beyond the talk itself. So you are familiar with Tom Gilb's EVO methodology. And yesterday, Łukasz Szóstek and Ewa Koprowska had a workshop about value-based decisions, which is another approach to Tom Gilb's ideas. So I was wondering how to add umami to Tom Gilb.
Thank you for that question. It's a very good question, I must say. And as you imagine, as Łukasz is my husband, we do have conversations about it at home every now and then. So indeed, the problem with Tom's methods is that it requires a very logical thinking. And as I am observing people trying to use these methods in the areas that are maybe less educated in this kind of thinking, it becomes increasingly difficult. So there are two ways in which this approach can be. I'm not sure that you can really get the fully blown umami in it. Like I wouldn't go that far, but at least you can try to change a few things. And one thing is that you can design the process of getting to the metrics. So basically, there are ways to lead people to arrive at those metrics that are maybe less demanding or more playful in a way. And therefore you can basically get there without such a difficult mental mind-bending exercise. So this is one thing. The second thing is that there is, so, you know, I am a student of the former Play CEO, Jürgen Bangensen. And Jürgen was always saying that it's better to be roughly right than precisely wrong. So I think that, especially for people who are starting with the methods, this very precise quantification is something that is extremely scary. Like, you know, it's just difficult. Like, you have to ask the questions that are difficult to answer. So my suggestion would be to try to be as precise as you can, but maybe, you know, in the first round, don't try to be over precise with everything. Oh gosh, my husband would kill me hearing that I'm saying this, but hey, that's that's my right? Anyway, and there's the third thing, and this is actually something that I'm talking about in my umami method, and this is, and you know, like, there's another person who was appearing at AgileByExample a number of times, and this is Dave Snowden. And Dave is always talking about collecting more stories like this and fewer stories like that. So in a way, sometimes, especially when you look at aspects that are more customer related, you can think, okay, like, maybe I don't have to precisely measure everything at every single step, but I will look at the stories that people share, and I will look for the stories that get the flavor that I'm looking for. And maybe this is just enough. Maybe it doesn't have to be more precise than that. So in a way, I think I'm a big fan of Tom, and I'm a big fan of Evo methodology and VBD. I think that it's extremely powerful as a way of leading your business, as a way of understanding what you are doing. But at the same time, I think that maybe not everything in your strategy has to be exactly on the same level of precision as Tom especially is preaching.
So in cooking, we have pure umami. If you want to add umami to a dish, so UX equivalent of MSG. Can you sprinkle something on your product to add just simple low-hanging fruit for?
All right, could you please repeat this question, because the Zoom was breaking a little bit, so I got a lot of and I don't think that I really got the question.
So the question is, we have MSG, which is an additive of pure umami. If you want to add umami to cooking, you can sprinkle this white powder and you have instant umami. Is there an MSG equivalent for UX?
So actually, the thing is that when you listen to the chefs talking about umami, they are very much against using this shortcut, because at the end of the day, this is just a shortcut. It improves the perception of the food, but it doesn't really improve the, you know, it doesn't change the way you approach the food. So of course there are shortcuts. I would say that the whole philosophy of the wow effects is a shortcut. So you're trying to do something to impress people right now, right here, and hoping that some of them will just fall for your wow effect, and they will be staying with your product for, you know, whatever reason. However, the thing is that if you want to, like, think of building a relationship, a friendship, a romantic relationship. Sure, you can impress a girl or a boy with a beautiful date with flowers and everything, but this is just a one event in a long path that you envision ahead of yourself. So basically, for me, building an experience that lasts can be compared to building just building the relationship that you want to create, a relationship that you want to last, that you want to be connected to, and you want to be emotionally attached to. So there probably are tricks. I'm sure that there are tricks that you can do to boost it, but I wouldn't really say that you can do just one thing and get the thing right.
I understand. Okay, thanks a lot. And I don't see any questions in any more questions in the chat. So thanks again for your talk about the umami strategy.